This podcast is part of the Pull Up a Chair podcast network. Let's build community through connection, conversation, and collaboration. This podcast is sponsored by Elever Consulting, editing with a purpose. Check them out at eleverconsulting.com for a free consultation.
Hey, I'm Ryan.
And I'm V.
And you're listening to Cringe With Me, the podcast where we dig up the cringiest articles, questions, and tidbits of human culture to review with you, our listeners, so you too can cringe with me.
I'm hypocritical, but at least I know we could be beautiful or maybe terrible.
All right.
Back again.
Yes, and it's my week. I have an Ask Amy article this week.
You have an ask, and it's Amy too. Amy is like dominating.
I like Amy in this one. This one feels good to me. This one, the author is the cringy part.
Oh
so.
no, I love that.
Yeah.
I love cringy authors.
So this is Ask Amy. Mother mourns the grandchildren she won't have.
Oh, wait. Oh, okay. There's so many bad ways this could go.
Yep, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Dear Amy, my 40-year-old son James. I don't know why James is in quotation marks here. Is his name not really James? Maybe that's what
Maybe
it is.
he's a trans individual, and she's like downplaying the new name.
I hope not. I don't think so. I think no, because of the. We'll get there.
Okay.
Has had many bright, beautiful, and intelligent girlfriends.
Okay, yeah, probably not.
He has been engaged and ended various relationships throughout his adult years.
As one does.
James is currently in an on-off relationship for the past 5 years, in parentheses, with no marriage plans in sight. His father and I have been amicably divorced for decades, so they've been separated for some time.
So apparently it's not a religious thing.
No, don't think so.
Okay.
My overall concern is that my son will never marry or find someone even for companionship.
Well, obviously companionship ain't that big of a deal. You single?
That's true, she is, right? I don't want him to be a lonely, aging bachelor. Even though I know that my life has been fulfilling and enriched with good experiences, I worry about my son's well-being. Not becoming a grandmother is a concern. For me, not for him.
I mean, how's he going to become a grandma?
Yeah, I mean, it can happen. But mainly, I do feel bad over James not experiencing the fullness of life with family and children. I know that not everyone marries, but I'm sad about James. I'm grateful for my own good health and for enjoying a long, rich life. I have foster animals, which I call my grand pets. So there's already that.
Not grand fur babies?
Not grand fur babies. That almost feels weirder. Can you tell me how I might better cope with my sadness over my son? Signed, sad not to be a grandma.
Sadness over my sin?
Son.
Okay, I was like, wait,
So,
what sin?
This woman is incredibly sad that her son is not getting married, isn't settling down, isn't having kids.
So judgmental.
Yeah, and he's not experiencing the fullness, the full richness of life with children and a family.
But I mean, obviously it didn't work out for her since she's single.
Well, there is. You can throw that stone. We can throw that stone.
It's not even. It's just stating a fact. It is not throwing a stone. I throw stones at you, not strangers.
Okay.
Maybe I'm still coming off of last week's episode.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. No, I to me, this feels like she has an idea of what this is probably my help with a lot of adults. They have an idea of what a successful life looks like, right? This idea that like, oh, you need to. It's almost like the American ideal, right? It's you get married, you have 2.5 kids, you move in, you buy a house with a white picket fence, and that's life, right? That is what success looks
Do you know
like.
how hard it is to keep a white picket fence clean?
I imagine very difficult. I've never had one myself,
Yeah,
but
no.
I'm not really into the whole picket fence.
It's ridiculous. She can't even live up to her own ideals, and she expects. It sounds like her
Ooh.
child is living a life, like several lovers, and it's like.
I mean, it sounds like he's happy. Which again, we're being a little savage. Do you want to hear what Amy has to say?
Sweet Amy. I'm sure she has something sweet to say.
So, dear Sad, your son James, in quotation marks again, might not be a lonely aging bachelor, but a man who has enjoyed a variety of romantic relationships of varying durations, which is the norm for him. I think it is a mistake to define the fullness of life as one that must contain one's own children, or any children, even though this has been your experience. But because you define the fullness of life this way, you are quite understandably disappointed or even mourning the fact that your life is a little less full than you had hoped. A Pew Research Center survey from 2021 finds that a rising share of U.S. adults who are not already parents say that they are unlikely to ever have children, and their reasons range from just not wanting to have kids to concerns about climate change and the environment. Your sadness over not having grandchildren will be shared by many other prospective grandparents. Unless your son demonstrates that his life is unfulfilled and empty, you should not misplace your concerns. You seem to be satisfied with the choices you've made in life, and your decision to keep your life full is healthy and commendable. In addition to the animals you foster, I hope you can find ways to bring children into your life. Look into a foster grandparent program in your community and see if they are able to extend this special kind of love and connection to a young child.
Amy's always so sweet, like actually finding solutions that'll help the individual.
Mm-hmm.
Abby would just burn her.
Yeah, no, Abby would burn her. And like, to be fair, there's some snark in this. Right?
There definitely is, but that's as snarky as I've ever heard Amy be.
Yeah, I think it's a mistake to define the fullness of life as one that contains one's own children or any children. I'm like, oh yes, thank you. As someone who may or may not have kids in my life, like I'm not for or against it per se. I think it depends on the circumstances. It's definitely interesting to be in this, like, to hear these complaints, which I've heard my entire life. My own mother is obsessed with me having kids. It got to the point, and this is going to be a Ryan story time now. So it got to the point where at one time, my mother was so incessantly talking about kids and asking me when I was going to have kids and talking about wanting to be a grandmother, that I told her, I'm like, every time I come home, I get berated with this. I don't want to deal with this anymore. So you need to stop bringing this up. And if you do, I'm going to leave. Like, that's, like, I'm just going to drive home. Okay? Like, that's what I'm going to do whenever you bring this up, because I need to set this boundary. I need you to hear me. And I only had to do that once, but I did. She started a conversation. I was like, hey, stop, or I'm going to go. And then she continued to push. And I'm like, all right, cool. I'm going home. Everything's good, but I'm done tonight, and we'll try again next time. And I drove home. It was like 45 minutes away. I was like, I'd been down there for like maybe an hour, and I'm like, nope, going home. We're done with this.
Nope.
And setting healthy boundaries, kids, it can make a big difference. Trust me. You can really kind of stop being in situations you don't want to be in if you set healthy boundaries about it. And
I guess I should count myself as fortunate that I don't have to deal with that because I'm infertile. And as soon as like that comes up, they're so awkward they can't even speak on the matter anymore. So it's like, when are you gonna have kids? Infertile. Oh.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, it's cringe.
Yeah.
Cringe.
Wonderful weather we're having. Yeah. It's like, how do you you can't follow that up. There's no graceful way to transition out of that, probably.
Especially since a lot of people think, oh, well, you must be traumatized over it. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm fine. I'm good.
Luckily for me, a lot of the pressure for the grandchildren thing has actually gone on to my sister now, because my sister's married. And
freedom.
And they're planning to have kids, which is
that's
great.
Perfect.
No, yeah, it's great. I love it. I'm happy for them.
That's
it's going to be great.
solution.
I'm excited to be an uncle.
It's great.
But all that pressure now has been diverted there, and it's been off me for a number of years now.
Well, let me know when a child is birthed and I can knit or crochet a blanket. I did that for all my friends' kids. They always get a handmade something.
That'd be cool.
I saw a shit ton of fabric for baby blankets and baby yarn. So.
That's fun.
And then you can just tell her that you did it.
She won't believe that, and I would lie that way anyway.
I wouldn't mind. I just like knowing that I made something for a baby.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think it'll still probably be another year or two before they just got married. I performed their wedding in September, so.
Get to work then. I mean, it's fun making babies.
I don't think that's the part they're not doing, but...
I mean, I wasn't
I'm not going to comment on my
I wasn't
sister's...
going to assume, but
yeah.
okay.
No, I'm not going to comment on my sister's life in that regard, but...
that actually brings up a point that I always think of when I hear or read these things where, like, the parents are pressuring, like, their kids to have grandkids for them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, growing up, especially in the U.S., like, kids are shamed for sex.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like, sex is bad, don't have sex. And then all of a sudden, it's like, you better be in that bedroom making me a grandbaby.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
that weird switch that happens with parents.
That dichotomy is old, right? Like, that's been going on forever, because you see that in, like, old Catholicism, right? Like, on the one hand, like, sex is a sin, it's bad, it's inherently evil, but it's necessary, so, like, we're gonna not talk about it, we're gonna tell you not to do it. But also, when you get married, we're gonna have a bunch of cardinals in the room to watch you have sex,
well,
to
you're
make
not
sure that
supposed
you
to
consummate
enjoy
the marriage.
sex.
Right, you're not supposed to enjoy it.
You're not supposed to enjoy
But
it.
you are supposed to do it.
Yes.
But also feel bad about it. It's like that, but that thing is like that dichotomy has existed in our culture, or at least in Western culture, for a very long time, right? And mostly kind of pushed by the church, but to some degree it's kind of existed outside of that as well. And it's interesting because, like, we even have this thing. This is a meme that comes up that I just can't.
Mm-hmm.
I can't understand why people do this. But there's like those maternity shirts they make where it's like the couple shirt, and like it'll be like the woman's shirt says like I've got a bun in the oven, and the dad shirt says I made the batter, and I'm like this is a thing that people wear and are like excited about and think is cute or funny, and I'm like you're wearing shirts that said we fucked, right? Like that's what it says.
Horrifying.
And I'm like, it's this weird dichotomy where it's okay because they're married and she's pregnant, they can openly discuss the fact that they are having sex, but you can't do that otherwise. Like,
yeah, no, I get the like
it creates an exception that some people acknowledge. Other people like me, I'm like, this is still a weird thing to be talking about. I don't have a problem with talking about sex.
No.
But it's the way you're advertising it now has made it weird. It wasn't weird, you made it weird. But for other people, that's what makes it normal. And that dichotomy to me is something that blows my mind.
The dichotomy of the expectation that a young man is supposed to be sexually experienced, but if a girl is, that makes her like a whore.
Oh yeah, there's a whole
that weird double standard.
There's a lot of weird. There's also a lot of weird stuff about like masturbation. That's another one where it's like people would think it was weird if a guy doesn't, but then they're like they don't talk about women doing it. Like that's not allowed, and it's like really weird. Like that's changing. It's getting better, but it's a weird split.
That is
right.
You know, I've never thought of that.
Yeah, it's a thing. The discussion about women masturbation is like considered really inappropriate, but joking about men masturbating is considered just normal.
Yeah, no, that's just normal. I bet our audience is cringing so hard at this conversation.
Oh yeah, this one, the article isn't as cringy as the conversation that is coming.
I know that it starts.
Yeah, no, it's. I mean, it is. It's weird. Like the way our culture talks about sex and discusses it is cringy. Like it's very cringy.
Well, okay. So this is something that I've noticed. I personally like to break out of the bias bubble that people are in and get out of the echo chamber.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll watch videos on like super religious people. And something I've noticed is whenever somebody's like hyper religious, whenever like sex or body parts come up, they giggle the way that you'd expect like a middle schooler to giggle when they're in like like anatomy class, and they're like, this is a penis.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I do like get uncomfortable with it, but I don't audibly giggle.
Yeah, it reminds me, in 5th grade, I remember when we were going through that portion of health where they talk about the reproductive system, and like, it's a bunch of 5th graders, there was definitely giggling. I remember at one point, they were trying to describe an erection, right? The teacher was like, and the penis becomes erect, and one kid started laughing so hard, and we had a standing rule during the segment that if you couldn't handle yourself, you were allowed to go stand outside. And the kid just starts like slamming his desk laughing, and then gets up and is like doubled over in pain laughing so hard, goes outside, and the teacher tries to continue, but we can hear him outside just laughing, and like he's rolling around on the ground. It was literally the raffle, right? Rolling on the floor laughing. He was rolling on the floor laughing outside in the hallway, disrupting every class in that building. And it's like, man, this is... And it's like at the time, yeah, it is funny. You're a fifth grader who probably has not heard much about this. This is not a thing you discuss.
Yeah.
Really. Not in our culture anyway, especially when I was growing up. And, but like, yeah, you're right. Adults who still react that way, I'm like, you...
There's a difference between a little giggle. Like, the example specifically that I was thinking of, I just snapped my bra. Speaking of...
Okay, I thought it was a static shock. I'm like, you just got zapped? Like,
no, I accidentally snapped my own bra. So, it was a Girl Defined video.
A what video?
Okay, so there's a YouTube channel called Girl Defined, and it's two women who talk about biblical womanhood. Your eyes are growing big. Okay. I get out of my echo chamber. I want to see what other people believe.
Yeah, I love that.
All right. And so they were talking about how one of them thought that their husband was ugly and unattractive on their wedding night, and they both started laughing about it, and then she went on to talk about the sex, and she couldn't even, like, get the words out. She was laughing so hard.
Ooh, okay.
I was like, what?
Okay.
And then there was a whole other video where they talked about, like, catching somebody's eye, and they both turned so pink talking about, like, wearing bathing suits.
Yeah, see, it's...
And it was just like, y'all are almost 40.
Well, you gotta remember, America was founded on very puritanical ideals, right?
Yeah.
Like, Puritans are who settled a lot of the colonies, and, like, that part of our culture is something we've been at war with ourselves in that, because if you look at American culture, some of it's very explicit, very push the envelope, and some of it's still very puritanical and very conservative. And we have this mix where a lot of people somehow try to exist in both spaces, right?
Yeah.
Like they're very conservative about sex, but also will say degrading, raunchy, ridiculous things. And it's like, how do you do both? I feel like these should be mutually exclusive, but they're not. Yeah, it's
It's just
thing.
Interesting because watching them, it's like, you guys are double my age.
Mm-hmm.
And I might giggle every now and then at like certain things, but I would never laugh about thinking my husband was ugly while I was walking down the aisle and laughing about the wedding night because it was so uncomfortable. Nor would I blush at somebody thinking that I'm hot in a bikini. Mostly because they wouldn't think I'm hot in a bikini.
Oh, the self-degradation, no.
And I put on a lot of COVID weight that I haven't quite lost yet.
Oh, you and me both.
Okay.
Got it.
Another weird double standard, though, because you're a dude. It's fine for you to be a little chub.
I mean, that might be a...
Dad bods are hot. Mom bobs are not.
I'm not going to argue with you about that because I think that you're probably right, but I know that from a personal standpoint, I definitely think of my own weight way more critically than I think of anyone else's, right? Like, I don't think of other people and, like, judge them based on it, but I judge myself pretty harshly.
I'm glad our camera died because I'm like, standing here checking you out like, yeah, you look fine to me.
I am in an unhealthy BMI, which is not always a great metric. The BMI system's kind of screwed.
Oh, God.
But so funny thing about me, I have been the same height since I was 14. Like, I'm 5'10", so hey, there you go. I was 5'10" when I was 14, and I'm like, man, I'm going to be tall. I'm excited. Never grew another inch the rest of my life. And, average height, so fine. Nothing to complain about. I'm not very height obsessed. It's not something that really gets to me.
You're not short.
I'm not short. I'm not tall. I'm just, it's in the middle. It's fine.
Yeah.
Doesn't really bother me. I know it bothers some people, and I understand why, but doesn't really get to me. But when I was this height at 14, I weighed maybe 145 pounds. Like.
So I'm guessing that's skinny?
Yeah, I was pretty skinny. I did water polo, and I was definitely like, I was a swimmer, right? But now, same height, and I weigh significantly more than that. Closer to 200, and I feel that, right? Because I'm same body, same frame, carrying a lot more. And so I'm like,
I get that.
I don't need to be 145 again. That's never going to happen. Not healthy weight for me at this age. But, like, I shouldn't be where I am. And, like, that's not a judgment. It's just, like, I don't feel good in my body at this weight, right? Like, it doesn't feel good.
I'm exactly there. Because I stopped growing in the 5th grade. Again, they all thought I was going to be massive. And I was 95 to, 98 pounds up until I met my current husband. And then he immediately put 30 pounds on me because he thought it was funny to feed me. And I made fun of him, calling him a feeder.
Oh my God.
Mostly because he was concerned about my weight because I was really, really underweight.
Mm-hmm.
I'm now 150, and I feel it.
Okay. Yeah, you feel a difference.
Yeah, right? Like it's totally like that's a lot of extra V.
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things where I'm like, I want to be very careful on this topic because like I'm not body shaming. I don't think that people should be shamed for their weight. And I think that I think it's really just about, are you happy? And are you happy and you're healthy, right? Like if you are happy with your weight and you're not at a weight that is, it's not even a weight thing, but it's like if you're not in a
Tammy Shelton.
I don't get the reference.
1,000 Pound Sisters. She's 730.
Okay, I don't know. I've never heard of this, but
okay,
I just mean like, if your weight is giving you health problems, then it is a concern, and that can be in either direction, right? Like if you're like maybe you're like, oh, I don't feel good in my body, and you're not eating enough to the point where you're hurting yourself. That's an eating disorder. That's not good, right? We don't want you to be unhealthy. We don't want you to be suffering. Or on the other hand, if you're eating in a way that's putting you at risk for heart disease and high cholesterol, things like that, then like, yeah, okay. So like, but within the range of healthy, which is a bigger range than people give it credit for, but like, you know, if you're within that range and you are happy with your body, that is the goal, right? Like there should not be a I don't think the size judgment, but I think that it's okay to look at yourself and be like, well, I'm not really happy with like how my body feels. I don't love it. I don't love that way it feels. I would like to improve that. And I'm going to do that in a way that is still healthy for me.
Okay, so this opens up an interesting conversation that I think we'll have over on our YouTube channel, where I will show you a bit about the BOPO movement and the fat liberation movement.
BOPO movement?
Oh gosh, it is something. It is something.
Right.
Anyways, guys, we'll catch you later. Thanks for listening in on what turned into a very interesting commentary on society at large this week.
Yep, we went a little deep today.
And we went a little deep. God, we were talking about sex earlier.
Hey.
Bye!
Alright, well, I'm Ryan, and you can find me on Twitter and Instagram under Build Right Roll, where I post about my professional Dungeon Master experiences. You can check out the links in the description if you're interested in hiring a professional DM or looking to level up your own DM skills.
And you can find me, V, at Cringe Queen at Instagram and Twitter, or check me out on YouTube as the Queen of Cringe, and be embarrassed with me.
All right, well, thanks for listening and cringing along with us.
And we'll catch you next time with more awesome cringe content.
I'm hypocritical, but at least I know we could be beautiful or maybe terrible. Only one way to know. Only one way to know.
Hello, I am Patrick.
And I'm Andrew. And I'm Christian.
And I'm Allie.
And we are Rad Theater, a podcast where a bunch of friends play role-playing games and share a single brain cell, and the GM doesn't always have it. Oh, and it's theater spelled the correct way, Theatre.
Okay, let's talk about Lever Consulting. They help you create so many things. A perfect personal statement, application essays, presentations. They help create writings that truly represent you. They've got writers, editors, and even researchers. Lever Consulting can make all your stuff easy to read, understandable, and enjoyable. They truly take editing to the next level. Not only do they have flexible rates, they also offer assistance with college applications and job seeking. Check them out at leverconsulting.com and get a free consultation.